Good afternoon, folks. Welcome to Milestone's webinar. Today, we're going to be talking about 3 things you should all know about settling your multi-party cases, specifically how you can use Milestone's experience to make your experience at settlement easier. My name is Patrick Hoover. I'm an attorney with Milestone. I set up qualified settlement funds for firms across the country. Milestone tailors our settlement strategies to meet your needs. We work with law firms across the country. We streamline qualified settlement fund distribution processes and provide sophisticated financial tools to attorneys and plaintiffs. Specifically for attorneys, using a qualified settlement fund can make the experience of settlement much easier for you and your clients, as well as give you access to attorney fee deferral and more flexible financial solutions for yourself. And for your clients, your client doesn't have to feel like they're in a rush at the settlement table. Rather than rushing into an annuity, they can take the time to build out a full financial plan that includes investment-backed structures, traditional annuities, special needs trusts, domestic asset protection trusts, or individual investment accounts. Every settlement is different, and so rather than come up with one catch-all solution, we make sure that each settlement works for each specific law firm and their clients. Through our experience in over 10 plus years in the industry, we've come up with a set of solutions that we think works for every firm, large and small. First, by providing streamlined settlement administration. What that means is qualified settlement fund and how it can alleviate the stressors on you and your back office. 2, innovative client settlement planning solutions. Again, not using just traditional annuities, your client can have access to a full range of financial options that will give them the financial future that they deserve. And finally, flexible attorney fee deferral, meaning that you're going to not just have to buy an annuity, you can come up with a range of plans that can meet your specific needs now and into the future. So starting with a qualified settlement fund. Qualified settlement fund is a 468B trust created by statute to ease the administration of large settlements. Think the Love Canal, environmental disasters from the 70s and 80s. A QSF is a tax qualified trust that holds settlement proceeds from litigation. Again, bringing up the Love Canal, there are multiple tortfeasors and multiple unidentified claimants. Where is the money going to go and sit until those claimants can be determined, or the amount that each individual tortfeasor has to pay? While funds are in the QSF, there is no constructive receipt, meaning that the client and the attorney has not seen that yet. Skipping ahead of myself, but the funds can remain within a QSF for an extended period of time while the post-settlement process begins. This means that you can take time figuring out liens, figuring out if there's any bankruptcy issues, and or if a probate question lingers. So our qualified settlement fund distribution process addresses some of these administrative inefficiencies, specifically around those issues I just mentioned. Hiring a probate and bankruptcy expert to make sure that your clients don't have any lingering liens or lingering debts out there, making sure that there isn't a probate question that needs to be addressed, whether or not there are multiple beneficiaries of an estate. Those types of questions can be answered over time, and they can be paid out directly from the qualified settlement fund. Same for liens. You probably have engaged with either outside lien resolution administrator or doing it in-house, rather than making sure you're rushing to get to the Medicaid office and answering every single question post-Gallardo. You can take the time knowing that the money is secure and Milestone and their QSF team can make the distributions at the end. And finally, there can be multiple rounds of distributions. So say that there's a lingering lien issue, the claimant can receive a initial holdback amount, or it could receive all at once. Using a qualified settlement fund administrator that's keeping track of those distributions, you can rest assured that the money is going to flow exactly as you need, which leads into the opportunity costs of engaging an outside administrator. Rather than putting this on your back office, outsourcing this to this important work to a dedicated administrator like Milestone can lead to better opportunities within your own office. Your staff can focus on the next case coming in rather than settling the questions that you've already worked through and litigated. So finally, there's a rush to settlement. Funds are generally received by an attorney and their client when funds are transferred to that law firm's trust account. So by the doctrine of constructive receipt, as soon as the settlement paper is signed and the check is cut, you've received the money, your client has received the money, everybody has to start declaring. So at this time, everybody rushes to the settlement table trying to figure out all of these important questions that are going to be asked 10, 20 years down the road. What if your client rushes themselves and puts themselves into annuity, and then 10 years later they decide they need to sell that annuity for pennies on the dollar to a J.G. Wentworth? Nobody wants to have their client forced into such a situation like that. The QSF can relieve that timing crunch because it removes time from the equation. As said earlier, when it's in a qualified settlement fund, there is no constructive receipt and your client's options remain open, which leads into innovative client settlement planning solutions. Here at Milestone, we take a holistic approach to settlement planning. Not every client needs one single type of annuity or trust. There's a whole host of options that need to be looked at, and oftentimes you can use different strategies together. Specifically looking at special needs and domestic asset protection trusts. Whether or not your client is eligible for a specific trust, you can use traditional structured settlements or investment accounts to help fund those trusts into the future so they last longer. Specifically looking at structured settlement rates, the annuity rate is bouncing back up, but we haven't seen a significant raise in annuity rates as a whole, which is why we still focus a lot on investment-backed structures, using the power of the market to be able to grow a client's funds for many years into the future. Also, this can be done for your minor claimants. We have a lot of experience across the country getting these type of arrangements set up for minors, whether it be just traditional guardianship or custodial accounts or an investment-backed structure overseen by the court. Basically saying that your client does not have to rush into what the defense broker is telling them they need to do. There are a whole host of options out there, and your client is being done a disservice if they don't have the entire picture there in front of them. And speaking of tax crunch, the attorneys at the end of these cases also are experiencing a similar crunch. Each multi-party case you take on may last years. The insurance company may drag it out. The defendant might not try and settle as quickly as possible, which in turn leads to the ebbs and flows of your business. You're putting so much time and effort into this large case. Receiving this windfall oftentimes becomes a penalty because you're receiving a couple of $1 million in 1 year, and you might not have something that large in the pipeline for another couple years after that. What do you do with all of this? How do you make sure you're planning for your retirement in a meaningful way rather than just making sure you're staying afloat year after year? Enter flexible attorney fee deferral structures, specifically investment-backed. You can grow your fees before taxes, working with your own current financial advisor, and come up with a periodic payment obligation or a schedule that can plan for life's milestones into the future. Meaning, say you have a child who's going to college in 10 years, you want to be able to pay for that you want to be able to pay for college tuition, then put all of your fees from a multi-party case into a deferral structure that pays out starting in 10 years with larger payments in the beginning and then eventually tapering off as the account balance dwindles. That's one type of arrangement we've seen. We've also seen people who are only trying to plan out for the small ebbs and flows, so they know that they have a case 5 years in the future that's going to settle for a similar amount. They might just set up a fee deferral structure for those intervening 5 years until the next case comes in. But there are a lot of different fee deferral solutions that could be possible for you and your firm. Knowing your financial advisor, knowing what your life's goals are, we can create these periodic payment obligations to help you meet those needs. This is just one example of a sample fee deferral, taking an initial $1 million initial fee. The growth that you'll see through a fee deferral is light years beyond what you'll see from taking the initial tax hit. Even if you were to go and invest it all right away, you're not going to have the initial critical mass that you need to see real growth in your funds over time. So just some hypothetical cases, things that we've seen people use QFS for that they previously hadn't, specifically looking at train, bus, and airplane accidents, multiple parties, possibly multiple defendants and or insurers. Systemic nursing home negligence cases, also pretty good for this type of arrangement. Hospital malpractice cases and limited data breaches. We're not getting into thousands of clients, but maybe a small hospital let somebody's personal information go too far. This also allows for coordination between law firms. If there are multiple law firms with defendants in a case, a single QSF for that multi-party event can be set up. Each firm's arrangements are limited by the settlement agreement of that specific case, but as an administrator with an experience paying hundreds, if not thousands, of attorneys, plaintiffs in mass torts, our QSF team is more than able to handle these type of cases. Just open it up to any questions, and feel free to contact me. My email is right here below, and that is our office line. Just ask for Patrick. I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you have.